Hello and welcome to Crimewatch, where you can help stop crime. In the next 40 minutes, you may see someone you know or something you remember. You'll see crimes in detail in the hope you might recognise a clue. The detectives behind me are waiting for your call, as are police throughout the country. That's the number, but have a pencil handy if you can. If you do spot something, you may want to write things down.
With the help of victims and police, we reconstruct crimes using eyewitness accounts and any clues that may have been left behind. The programme relies on you to help. And if you think it's unlikely that you can, well, the results of our last programme suggest the chances may be higher than you think.
In fact, there's been a breakthrough in the hardest case we've ever covered. Last month, we showed you details of a murder that's remained a mystery for 5 years. The body of a young woman, who's never been identified, was found in Bedgebury Forest near Tunbridge Wells in Kent. She was battered, and about the only clue was this, her dress. It was recognised on last month's Crimewatch by the woman who made it. She lives in Stratford-on-Avon. She made it for her mother. Now, since then, someone at some time has raised the hem by about 4 inches, and they took a zip out. From Stratford, the dress went to the Salvation Army in nearby Evesham and was sold at auction early in 1978. Now, did you own or alter it? If so, please call us. You might help Kent Police to solve a murder.
We also asked for your help last month to find a man who attacked and raped an 11-year-old girl in the Moston area of Manchester. In particular, a suspect who was seen outside Moston Youth Centre shortly before the attack. After the programme, police received several calls, one of which led to a man being charged with an offence of indecent assault, which took place in the area 2 days before the programme. That, however, wasn't the offence we featured, and police inquiries are still in progress.
In our photo call last month, we showed you pictures of people wanted by police, and while the programme was on the air, Sussex police were called to a guest house where one man had been recognised. He'd been wanted for questioning about confidence tricks against old people. He's since been charged with obtaining money by deception.
And we showed you a photo from Merseyside Police of Austin John McCormick. He has since been traced, and he's now been charged with the murder of William Osu in Liverpool just over 2 years ago.
And finally, we asked for your help in tracking down the killer of a policeman. If you remember, last October in Leeds city centre, Sergeant John Speed was shot dead while on a routine inquiry. His colleague, Police Constable John Thorpe, is here tonight. Just before the killing, he was shot through the stomach at point-blank range. He was critically wounded. As you can see, thankfully, he's recovering well, and he's here to appeal to you in person. First, let's remind you of the events. Here's an extract from our reconstruction. It's 25 to 9 on the morning of Wednesday, the 31st of October.
Will you attend Kirkgate near to the parish church? A report of 2 men acting suspiciously near to a yellow Ford Cortina saloon.
Just a minute. Where are you going?
I'm not going anywhere. Why? What's wrong?
We've had a report that 2 men have been acting suspiciously around this car park. Is it you?
I've done out.
Have you been messing about with this Cortina?
No.
Have you been in this car?
I've checked around the car park, but all is in order.
2977. Couldn't you get Sergeant Speed to come to the front of the parish church, Kirkgate? (10:13). 10:13. I've been shot. Get an ambulance. 2977 to control. Description of gunman. He's a white male, about 40 years of age. Stocky build, wearing a grey flat cap and an olive green army-type jacket.
John, I'm sorry to put you through seeing that again. That must have been very dramatic.
Yes, it is.
Tell me, you wanted to make an appeal tonight, and in fact, I know you've had condolences not just from members of the public, even members of the criminal fraternity have written in, not only expressing their condolences, but saying that they want to help catch this man. Now, what's the appeal you wanted to make?
The appeal really is to the second man, to his friends or relatives or even associates. The thing is that the gunman has already shown that he's extremely dangerous and callous in the way that he shot myself and Sergeant Speed. And I do think that the second man could in fact be in danger if, in the circumstances, the police get close to the gunman, then obviously the second man holds the key to his identity.
He doesn't necessarily, of course, face anything like as serious a charge as the man who pulled the trigger in any case.
Well, the facts as I know them, he wasn't involved in the shooting, in the actual shooting.
Give us a description then, remind us of the people that the police are looking for.
The gunman would be about 35 to 42 years of age. He's a white male, would be approximately 5 foot 10 inches tall. He's got his short hair around the ears, which is greying slightly at the temples. The second man would be possibly slightly taller. He again is a white male, but could be 5 foot 11, 6 foot tall. His appearance was rather scruffy, especially around the face. He had a full beard and moustache, and his hair was collar length, but slightly ruffled.
OK, well, if you know those two men, or indeed if you were driving or saw anyone driving a black Ford Escort Mark I towards York that day, please do call us. Here's the number, 01811 8055. You could talk to John here, or to a colleague of his, or to a BBC researcher if you prefer. Or you can call the police in Leeds direct on Leeds 454 197. That's 0532 454 197. And let me repeat, you can call in the strictest confidence.
Well, this month, police need your help with a crime in the West Country. Maybe you live there, maybe you travelled there last September. And perhaps without realising it, you were on the same train as a killer or the killer's victim. It was a crime committed in a public place where there must have been hundreds of potential witnesses. The date was the 10th of September last year, a Monday. You could look back in a diary or a calendar to check what you were doing. Our reconstruction starts with what might have been just a bizarre coincidence. It begins on this rail journey. That afternoon, the 3:18 express train left Cardiff for London Paddington. On board, two buffet stewards were about to start work.
Time to open up.
Okay. That's him. One with a tash.
The chief steward thought that remark was suspicious. The men may have been out to rob the buffet. So later, he asked his colleague to check out the two passengers to see if he recognised them. He didn't, but he remembers one man had a northern accent and both were scruffily dressed. The one on the left was over 6 foot with a spotty complexion. The other had a moustache, was slim and in his early 20s.
We're now approaching Bristol Parkway. Passengers
The two men got up to leave the train shortly before 10 to 4, as it neared Bristol Parkway. They walked to the rear carriage. Perhaps they knew it was closest to the station exit. All the time they'd been on the train, the two buffet staff, particularly the steward with the moustache, felt they were being watched. Perhaps the reason the two men got off at Parkway was that they'd realised the person they were looking for wasn't on that train. Early evening, the same day, at Paddington Station in London. Another steward, also with a moustache, Mark Yentl, and this stewardess were due to start their last shift of the day. The 7:30 evening train to Temple Meads would take them both back home to Bristol.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the chief steward. The buffet car, situated at the rear of the train, is now open for light refreshments,
Drinks, toasted sandwiches, etc. Thank you.
Regulars on the train might well have recognised Mark Yentl and his assistant. They often worked together as a team on the buffet cars on that West Country line. Mark was married with a baby daughter, and he was known for his individual style of working. He rarely wore the full chief steward's uniform, preferring to work simply in an open-necked shirt. And he even acted as waiter to a few regular customers.
Right, that's us then. Let's go. No, I think I'll give it a miss tonight, Debbie.
At 9:10 that evening, Mark Yentl and his assistant had finished work at Bristol Temple Meads. Station staff remember he left by the main exit and walked out to the adjoining car park where he'd left his red Lancia car earlier that day. Now he was only a few minutes away from home, but he was never to see his family again. From forensic evidence, it would seem that Mark was attacked in the car park by at least 2 men, and that he was then driven away in the back of his own car. Whoever killed him must have had some local knowledge, because the Lancia was taken to Welsh Back, a spot between the Bristol and Redcliffe bridges, and conveniently close to the water's edge. It was 2 days later, in the early hours of Wednesday the 12th of September, that Mark Yentl's car was discovered by this policeman patrolling Bristol docks. Bloodstains on the car and pavement led him into sheds by the dockside, and he followed a trail to the water's edge.
Control from 2094, request backup Welsh Back. Vehicle found in suspicious circumstances. Over.
This was where frogmen working in 14 feet of water recovered the body of Mark Yentl. Mark, pictured here only months before his death, had not been robbed. It was an apparently motiveless killing. Well, Detective Chief Inspector Jeff Butler is leading this investigation. 2 stewards with moustaches on 2 train journeys on the same day. Do you think that's a connection, or do you think that's coincidence?
I think there may well be a connection. Both stewards looked remarkably alike. And, of course, the deceased Mark Yentl, prior to working on the Bristol run, used, in fact, to work on the Cardiff run.
Could we have your descriptions of the 2 men that you were hoping to interview again?
Yes, firstly, the man on the left was by far the smaller of the 2. He had a moustache, a Mexican-style moustache, about 5 foot 6 inches tall. He had dark brown hair, which was cut very short. The second man was described as a big man, 6 feet 2, 6 feet 3, slim build, with hair which was curly on top, and he was wearing a fawn lumber jacket with a dirty white collar. And it's interesting to note, when they got off the train, the man on the left, the smaller of the 2 men, appeared to be wearing a burgundy body warmer with a black stripe around the waistband.
You need to trace those men, even if only to eliminate them from
Yes, we
inquiries.
do. I really would like to trace them.
Are there any clues from the scene of the murder on that night?
Yes, there are. A witness saw a white Mark IV Cortina with a T suffix. And this vehicle was seen to drive slowly into the car park, as though it was looking for somewhere to park.
It's a bit confusing between those 2 cars there. Which car is which?
Yes, it's the white one, the one on the right. It drove slowly into the car park, followed by the witness's car. And the witness thought that the car was looking for somewhere to park. He followed the car slowly into the car park, and then the car stopped just past the entrance to the part of the car park where the deceased was murdered. He then noticed that a man had come and started speaking to the driver of the Ford Cortina, and that man is described as very heavily built, wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. And we'd like to trace him.
It's very hard to believe that no one saw anything in a busy station car park like that at 9:10 in the evening.
Yes, it is rather strange. It's a very busy place, Temple Meads, especially at that time of night. The car itself that the deceased was driven away in is a red Lancia, which is not that common a car. And of course, when it left Temple Meads, it drove down to Welsh Back which is also another very busy area of the city, surrounded by pubs and clubs.
Mr. Butler, thank you very much indeed. And the number to ring in absolute confidence, if you can help in any way, is 01 811 8055, 01 811 8055, or you can call the Trinity Road Incident Room in Bristol, and that is Bristol 267 985, Bristol 0272 267 985.
Now, this month's photo call, people whom the police would like to trace. Chief Inspector David Hatcher and DC Helen Phelps have the pictures. See if there's anyone you know.
Photo call has a strong Scottish flavour this month, but the people we're looking for could be anywhere in the UK. Our first face belongs to James Bagri, who escaped from Edinburgh prison on the 16th of October 1983. He'd been convicted of murder the year before. Bagri is 33 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall and well built. He's considered dangerous and could be violent if approached.
Lothian and Borders Police are also anxious to trace George Mackay, who absconded from Edinburgh prison on the 28th of December last. He was serving a life sentence for murder. Mackay is 33 years old, stockily built, and as you can see is heavily tattooed on both arms. He has been sighted in the Glasgow area, and apparently he shaved off his moustache, lightened his hair and lost several pounds in weight.
And now the first of 2 missing persons. 14-year-old Colin Maxwell has been missing from his home in London for almost a year. On Sunday the 19th of February, Colin left his home in Victoria on an errand for his mother. Previously, he'd been living in Glasgow with his grandmother, so it's possible he intended to return to Scotland. He's 5 foot 7 inches tall, wears a gold stud in his left ear and speaks with a broad Scottish accent.
And finally, Marion Hodge, who went missing last July in Dumfries. At 7:30 in the morning on Friday the 6th of July, Marion's husband drove her from her home in Lockerbie to Dumfries, where he dropped her off in the White Sands area. She's not been seen since. 5 foot 4 inches tall and of slim build, Marion was carrying a blue canvas suitcase and a brown handbag. Please contact us if you think you saw her that day, the 6th of July, or at any time since.
So, if you have any information about any of our 4 photo call faces, the number to ring is, as always, our studio number. That's 01 811 8055.
In the last 2 months, a hooded man has made 3 separate attacks on teenagers in Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire. His actions have filled the town with fear and he's still on the loose. Now, there are obvious dangers in featuring sexual crimes in reconstructions on television, so we've acted only on the advice and with the help of the victims as well as the police. There have been 4 victims that we know of. They all hope that you may be able to identify the rapist before someone else is hurt. Prior to the attacks, all 4 young women were on the main A41 road from Aylesbury to Watford that goes right through the centre of Berkhamsted. The first victim was walking home from the station after an evening out with friends. In this reconstruction, actresses are used throughout, not the real people, and although you'll see snow, there was none when the attacks took place. Just off the A41 in the centre of Berkhamsted is Victoria Road. At 11:55 p.m, a 19-year-old was heading home. It seems her screams caused the attacker to run off. He escaped through an alleyway leading to the Assailants council estate. This first incident took place on Wednesday, the 14th of November at 11:55 p.m. Police are in no doubt that the motive was sexual. The second incident began about the same time of night, here at the Crooked Billet on the A41, when a schoolgirl left her friends to walk home. There was a man walking ahead of her, but he soon disappeared from view. He was lying in wait for her in the entrance to an old people's residence. Threatening his victim with a kitchen knife, He marched the young girl off the main A41 and turned off here into Durrant's Lane.
Get over!
This second attack was on Sunday the 25th of November at about 11:30 p.m. The 15-year-old victim was raped. On the A41 just outside Berkhamsted is the old Mill House Hotel. It's Saturday night the 15th of December and there's a private birthday party in full swing. At 1:45 on Sunday morning, the party finished. These two girls had been promised a lift home, but the driver seemed to have left without them.
He's definitely not here, is he? So what are we going to do?
Do you have enough money for a taxi?
Oh, I've spent it all.
I don't have enough either. Come on, let's start walking.
It's 5 miles from here.
Come on, we'll be all right.
Okay.
At 1:50 or so, the girls left to walk along the A41 towards Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, look, the lights stop up here. Let's go back.
No, come on, we're bound to come to a phone box soon. Can't be much further. I'll phone Alan, he'll give us a lift.
At almost the same time, a motorist driving towards Hemel Hempstead had to brake hard as a man ran across the road in front of him. A few yards further on, the driver noticed the two young women. Now they were being followed.
What the hell is that?
Get down and shut up! I've got a knife. Keep your heads down!
Look, if you want money, take it!
Shut up as I'll slit your throat! And get over that fence!
But we can't get through there.
Don't be cocky! One more move from you.
Do as he says, he's got a knife!
You go first, and don't run! Otherwise your mate's a goner.
It was 1:05 in the morning, now Sunday the 16th of December. Both women were sexually assaulted. One was raped. The assailant seemed to have a local accent, and the victims say they'd recognise his voice again.
Well, Detective Superintendent Michael Butler is in charge of the investigation. Those 3 attacks all took place within quite a small area of Berkhamsted, didn't they? Do you think this man could be a local man?
There is every indication that this man may possibly be a local man. He has obviously a lot of local knowledge, but it may be that he has since moved away from the area after living there for some time. The description that we have got of this man is that he's between 18 and 30 years of age, 5'6" to 5'8" in height, a white male, very broad-shouldered for a man of that height. We believe that he might be working on building sites or be a bodybuilder belonging to a bodybuilding club. He has very strong arms and very thick in the neck.
So what exactly appeal do you want to make to us tonight?
Any person that remembers a man returning home, especially after the second and third attacks, on the young girl, the 15-year-old, and on the 2 girls on the 15th of December, who returned home in a muddy, filthy condition, because we must remember that on the third attack, it took place in a very, very muddy field, and he would have been very heavily covered in mud. The clothing he was wearing on the second attack was a green jumper, a green balaclava, wearing green gloves and green corduroy trousers. On the third attack, he was dressed in a blue balaclava, a blue jumper, and either blue faded jeans or light grey trousers.
And briefly, there's a handbag that one of the girls lost during the attack.
Yes, in the third attack, a young lady lost this handbag, which in fact was coloured black, and in it were some Christmas cards addressed to her friends, which in fact she hadn't sent.
Do you have any advice for women living in the Berkhamsted area while this man is on the loose?
Yes, there may be other women that this man has approached or attacked and haven't come forward. Can I assure those women that if they are to come forward, we would treat them most sympathetically, and if anybody in that area has the slightest suspicion who this man might be, would they please contact us? Every little piece of information is most important to us and will be treated in the strictest confidence.
So you're not wasting police time. Thank you very much indeed. Could I just say again that the actresses who took part in our reconstruction didn't in any way resemble the victims, nor did they wear similar clothing. And if you think you know or might know anything that could help, here is the number: 01811 8055 here, or you can ring the inquiry headquarters direct. It's Welwyn Garden City, 31011. That's 07073 31011. Please do ring before it's too late to prevent another attack.
Now, the Crimewatch Incident Desk, where we invite the police to appeal to you directly. Here again are Detective Constable Helen Phelps and Chief Inspector David Hatcher.
We start this month's Incident Desk with criminals caught in the act. Caught on film by the security camera, that is. And we're hoping you'll help our Wiltshire colleagues catch up with this cunning gang of thieves. This family-owned jeweller's shop in Chippenham, Wiltshire, is where it all happened.
It's a clever routine worked by 3 accomplices. One goes ahead to divert attention. He said he wants a present for a small girl. But when the assistant's back is turned, he signals the others in and points to the cloth roll of jewellery he's got his eyes on. The assistant puts the roll in a back office for safety, but our villain makes sure his friends know just where, and a hasty snatch plan's agreed. When the assistant returns, it's simple. One of the thieves, just outside the camera's view, nips into the office and snatches his prize, £12,000 worth of gold chains.
Earlier, the security camera filmed all 3. With the Crimewatch computer, we can take a good look. The oldest of the trio was a smart dresser. He's about 23 years old, 6 foot tall, with blonde hair, and wore this dark cream or beige suit with a dark tie. And what about the man who tucked the chains under his jacket? The thief himself. Well, he's about 22 years old, 6 foot 2 tall, with fine medium brown hair, and his jumper had a pattern of squares on the front in various shades of brown. Finally, let's take a look at the last one to leave the shop, the man who kept the assistant talking. He's a year or 2 younger than the others, about 20. 6 foot tall and very slim. He's said to have a slightly olive complexion, and that sweater was military style with leather patches on the shoulder. In fact, there have been a series of similar thefts from jewellery stores across southern England. First in Swindon in June, 2 in September in Ipswich and Oxford, and in November at Reading. We think there may be a gang of about 8 operating from London in groups of 3 or 4 at a time. If you think you recognise any of the men in the video, please call us here.
If you travel through West London regularly, you might be able to help us with a serious attack and robbery. It happened on the Friday before Christmas, the 21st of December, in the Shepherd's Bush area. At about 1:30, a robbery took place at Harry Fenton's clothes shop on Shepherd's Bush Green. A detective chased a man and was stabbed 3 times. His attacker eventually made off from near Shepherd's Bush roundabout in a purple-coloured Mark III Ford Cortina, like this one. The car may have had a black vinyl roof or a red stripe, and was last seen heading towards the Notting Hill area. As a detective was taken to hospital, this bag, dropped by his attacker, was recovered. Inside was this white trench mac, and on it, splashes of paint. If you look closely, you might see they're light blue, and the coat may have been cleaned recently to try and remove them. Also inside the bag was a bus ticket. From this bus, the 260. Detectives think the man travelled from the 260 from Acton Town Hall on his way to Shepherd's Bush at about 1 o'clock. If you were on that bus or in the Shepherd's Bush area and saw the man, aged about 17, 5 foot 6 inches tall and wearing a bomber-type jacket, please ring us.
Devon and Cornwall police are looking for thieves with an eye for rare clocks. 3 were stolen on the afternoon of Wednesday the 7th of November from a house in Wellswood Park, Torquay. This early 18th century George Graham quarter repeating clock is 15 inches tall, made of ebony, and I'm told probably worth more than £20,000. This Merriman is another desirable collector's item. 280 years old, it's worth about £15,000. The maker of the 3rd clock is not known, but it might fetch about £9,000 at auction. 2 men dressed as workmen were seen near the house at the time of the burglary and may have used a white van with a blue stripe down its side. If you know the men, the van, or the whereabouts of the clocks, ring us here on Crimewatch.
And finally, a sticky problem for thieves in the West Country. They're probably trying to get rid of 31,000 cans of stolen Silvercrin hairspray, and all of them fairly new to the market. A trailer loaded with the hairspray was stolen from a lay-by near Weston-super-Mare on Wednesday the 2nd of January. The trailer is still missing, and so are the cans, made up of normal or firm-hold varieties. If you can help us trace the hairspray, or a particularly well-groomed gang of thieves, call us on the incident desk.
The number, as always, 01811 8055. In our final case tonight, there were 3 witnesses, the victims of the crime. They and Essex Police believe the reconstruction that follows may give you a clue, or may prick someone's conscience, may touch someone who knows something, may reach someone who, when they see the brutality that took place, will decide to put a stop to it. About a month ago, in the early hours of Friday, December the 14th, there was a burglary near Epping in Essex. A good deal of property was stolen, but that mattered little to the family compared to the ordeal that they were put through. A large bungalow just north of Epping, home of the Mitchell family. Brian Mitchell had been suffering from a bad back, so on that Thursday night he'd slept on the sofa so Gillian, his wife, wouldn't be disturbed. The family always felt safe at night. Their Labrador, Jumbo, was an effective guard dog.
Jumbo? Jumbo, what is it? Jumbo?
There's nobody there. Come on, you silly dog. Come on. Go on.
Dean Mitchell, who's 20, got home sometime after 11. He'd been to a cricket practice, and his parents can remember hearing him get back and go to his room. Brian Mitchell himself recalls the events that followed.
It must have been roughly about 3 o'clock. I was sort of half asleep, half awake. I can remember hearing a few noises which didn't bother me because we're used to birds and things tapping on windows.
Round the back.
Suddenly I sort of half woke up and I saw silhouettes against the window.
Dean? What? Bloody hell.
I've got a knife. Oh, get him down! Get him down! Get him down! I want him tied up! Get him down!
Brian! Get him, Jumbo!
Lie down on the bed and you won't get harmed. Stay there and don't move!
You're not going anywhere. Where's the safe?
We haven't got one.
Liar. Don't give me that! Now, where is it?
I keep telling you, we haven't got one.
He's telling you the truth. You haven't got
Just
a
keep
safe.
quiet and you won't get hurt.
I haven't got anything.
You're going to give us trouble, we'll cut your bleeding toes off, mate. Go and get the boy in here. Go and get him in here.
Do you know where the stuff is?
No, I don't.
But my mum knows where it is, and if you let me see her, I'll get it for you.
Right, up.
What have you done to my dog?
He'll be all right. He's only sleeping. Tell him where the money is!
You know, I told you where it is. It's in the end room, in the first wardrobe, in a denim dress with 2 pockets.
Right, come on.
We were sort of trussed up for an hour and a half or thereabouts. The hour and a half for one seemed like a year. I was treated brutally. They just put the gun to my head and said, if you don't do what we're told, you're dead. The worst aspect of it was that possibly Jill, my wife, was going to be treated in the same way.
Stay there, just stay there. Not gonna hurt you.
Here is he.
The one that tortured me was a very vicious man. Knowing that he'd killed our dog, he stabbed me, he held a dagger into my leg very deeply. The thoughts were that maybe we wouldn't come out alive, any of us.
Be gone soon. Keep him quiet. Stay down.
I would imagine it was on all of our minds that if we get out of it alive, or even almost alive, we'd be very lucky. To them, it seemed a routine job.
What more do you want? You've got the diamonds.
We don't want the diamonds. It's the gold we want.
I've told you we haven't got any gold. Look, that diamond you've got's worth £10,000.
What about this, Zach? How much is it worth, love?
A couple of hundred, take it.
Jess, get something to gag him with, quickly! You shouldn't have got your dog to attack me. He's only a pet. I love dogs. I used to have greyhounds of my own. Don't worry, love, we're not going to hurt you. If we find that you've been hiding stuff from us, or if you do anything naughty... Come on, come on! We'll be back! Yeah, we'll be back!
Terrifying for the family, Derek has. Have they recovered? It's, what, a month since the attack?
No, this was a particularly brutal and horrific crime. The mental scars will remain with that family forever.
Now, what clues have you got about who did it?
A Ford Escort was stolen from the premises that night and abandoned in Union Street, Stratford, later the same day, about 1 o'clock. We're also looking for the driver of a Ford Cortina estate car that was seen driving past the premises about 4:30 a.m. that morning.
So somebody owned that estate car, and you want to find whoever dumped the red car in East London?
Indeed, yes.
OK, now they stole a good deal of property. There's a little of some of the stuff you've got here, which is similar. Describe what it is, can you?
Yes, the statuette is of a Viking. This is one of a pair. The stolen item is exactly the same type of figure, holding a sword. Then we have some commemorative plates, very similar in design to those here.
That's Victorian porcelain.
Again,
collection.
Victorian porcelain, but slightly larger.
Right.
And then we have a water set, of which this is the potty. For obvious reasons, they left the potty, but there is a water jug of the very similar design to this.
And what about descriptions of the 3 assailants?
There were 2 masked. One was black, male up to about 30 years, very strong. His name, we believe, was Zach or Zaki. He was the sort of restraining influence on that party that night.
Right. Then there were 2 others.
The 2 others. One was white, masked, about 30 years of age, 5'9".
Is this the guy who said he owned greyhounds once?
That's right. He referred to greyhounds.
And then there was one other.
One other. His name was Jess or Jesse, younger, 22. His hair was particularly distinctive in as much that it was loosely wavy and as if the perm was growing out.
All right, Jerry Cass, thank you very much. If you know anything, please call in confidence. Doesn't matter whether you're on the level you're not or not yourself, there's a reward. Here's the number, 01811 8055. Or if you prefer, you can call the Harlow Incident Room in Essex directly. That's Harlow 29500 0279 29500.
And if you don't have a telephone or you can't get through, do drop us a line. Here's the address, Crimewatch UK, BBC TV Centre, London W12 8QT. The main number is easy to remember. We're going to be here all evening. Please do ring if you think you might be able to help in any way, however small.
In fact, as always, we'll be back to tell you what develops in about an hour and a half from now. That's Crimewatch UK update here on BBC One at about 11:35, directly after the film. If you can't stay up till then, don't please have nightmares. Violent crime is much rarer than newspapers and TV might lead you to imagine. You're much more likely to hurt yourself, as I did, in a mundane skiing accident. So take care and do sleep well.
If you can help tonight, please do ring us. We'll be waiting for your call.
For the moment, good night.
Hello and welcome back. The response to Crimewatch this month has been enormous. We've already handled nearly 700 calls tonight. If you found the lines engaged, please keep trying and have pen and paper handy. We'll have more telephone numbers for you in a moment. But we have already had results.
First, the shooting of PC John Thorpe and the murder of his colleague Sergeant John Speed. They were attacked 7 weeks ago in Leeds by a gunman and his accomplice. Earlier this evening, PC John Thorpe made this dramatic appeal.
The appeal really is to the second man. To his friends or relatives or even associates. The thing is that the gunman has already shown that he's extremely dangerous and callous in the way that he shot myself and Sergeant Speed.
One of the senior officers investigating the case is Superintendent Norman Mould. What's been the response?
The response has been very good indeed. We've had, in fact, a total of over 70 calls.
John Thorpe was hoping that some people who might be able to name names, in other words, members of the criminal fraternity, might themselves ring in, given the grotesqueness of the crime. Has that happened?
Yes, we've had calls from people of that background, and we've had suggestions as to the identity of the gunman and the accomplice.
Are you able to give us any specifics tonight?
No, we're looking at these suggestions, and we're looking at them very carefully, and some of them are being investigated at this time.
Things worth going off for straight away. John Thorpe was obviously being quite brave, appearing on the programme. His appeal has paid off, has it?
Yes, it has.
Good. Well, I'm delighted. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, now the murder of Mark Yentl, the British rail steward who was battered to death at Bristol Temple Meads. One Monday night, the 10th of September last, he came off duty from the London train and walked out of the station to pick up his car. Well, Detective Chief Inspector Jeff Butler, what sort of response have you had?
The response has been very, very good indeed. We have a very interesting line of inquiry in respect of the deceased vehicle, which we're following up straight away. I can't elaborate on that anymore at this stage. A number of people have come forward that travelled on that last train with the deceased. Very, very encouraging.
A final reminder then, what are you hoping the public might be able to help you with?
Well, I'm hoping that they will be able to come forward, those people that were at Temple Meads on that night, that's Monday the 10th, at Temple Meads and at Welshback, will come forward and help us with this inquiry.
Right. Monday the 10th of September, just over 4 months ago.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
In fact, some of the information we've been having tonight is so good that we're constrained in telling you it in too much detail because collars may be being felt tonight. Let's bring you up to date on what's been uncovered by Incident Desk and by a photo call. David Hatcher and Helen Phelps made the appeal for help. What's been the response? First on the jewellery raid, can we in Chippenham?
Well, yes, that's extremely promising. We've had 7 calls from separate sources, all naming the same man, and they're positively sure that he's one of those involved. So there could be knocks on the door there tonight.
There were missing people you were trying to trace?
That's right, yes, and one of them is Colin Maxwell, the 14-year-old lad who was missing a year ago. Motorists think they may have given him a lift in Warwickshire just a few weeks ago, so that looks hopeful.
Helen, you were asking about a stabbing of a police officer in West London at Shepherd's Bush. What sort of response have you had to that?
There have been a number of calls, in particular about the purple Ford Cortina. That was the car that was seen heading towards Notting Hill after the incident. However, the officers taking these calls are pretty sure that there are people listening out there who do know who did the attack. Remember that the calls will be treated in the strictest confidence.
OK, also the photo call. Again, you were trying to trace people.
Yes, we'd like to pinpoint George Mackay. We believe it is extremely likely that he's still in the Glasgow area. He has friends, he has associates there. If anyone has seen him, please call.
Right, thank you.
Now the hunt that's going on in Hertfordshire for the man who's assaulted 4 young women in Berkhamsted. All the assaults took place on the A41, and all the victims, like the 2 in the latest attack, wanted us to reconstruct those crimes to ask you for your help.
Who the hell is that?
Get down and shut up. I've got a knife. Keep your heads down.
Look, if you want money, take it.
Shut up as I'll slit your throat. And get over that fence.
Now, Superintendent Butler, you've had nearly 100 calls tonight. What have they yielded?
A number of names of possible suspects have been put forward. A witness has come forward who was travelling the A41 at the time of the 3rd attack. And also a lady has come forward to say that a grey pair of trousers was taken into her dry cleaning shop in the locality shortly before Christmas.
And what was significant about the trousers?
They were grey and very, very muddied at the time they were taken in.
Obviously, it's essential that this sad character is caught as quickly as possible before he commits another assault. Could you give us a final reminder of what you're hoping people can help you with?
Yes, if I can just remind the public of the description, 18 to 30 years, very thick set, 5'6" to 5'8", and I would just appeal to anybody that has a suspect to come forward, and we will treat that in the strictest confidence.
No matter how insignificant that information may seem.
That's true.
Superintendent Butler, thank you.
Well, finally tonight, that appalling robbery at Thornwood Common in Essex, where thieves subjected a family to gratuitous violence. The family hoped that by showing what happened, Crimewatch might encourage someone who knew the crooks to give them up.
Woke up and I saw silhouettes against the window.
Dean? What the bloody hell?
Got a knife! Oh, get him down! Get him down!
Horrible crime. Chief Inspector Cass, are you pleased with the results you've had from the phone so far?
Yes, we've had an enormous response, both here in the studio and back at the incident office. In that respect, I would ask the person who rang the incident office, who promised to call back, will do so. I'd also remind viewers of the video fit of one of the suspects who was either called Jess or Jessie. And in addition, the black man, who was called Zach or Zachy.
Now, this man, we think, was a restraining influence on the most violent of the three of them.
Yes, indeed.
Now, you were hoping that, once again, you might get some members of the underworld themselves ringing in. Such was the horror of the crime. Has that happened?
Yes, it has happened. I'd also mention that there is a £3,000 reward for information. And I would urge that members of the criminal fraternity contact me here in confidence at the studio so that we can pursue these inquiries.
Terry Cass, thank you very much. That's all we've time for. The lines are still busy, though, and we'll be keeping them open until midnight. In a moment, we'll give you local numbers you can call. They're all on CFAX, incidentally, on page 186. And don't forget, you can write to us in absolute confidence, I promise you. This is the address, Crimewatch UK, BBC Television Centre, London W12 8QT.
And thank you for calling, if you did. And also, do remember, despite the frightening things we've talked about tonight, violent crime is much rarer than you probably imagine, so do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.